Welcome, everybody. I'm Jay-Z. This is not a fake background. I'm actually at the FOB headquarters. Woo! And I'm joined in the conference room with a couple of our staff, and we're all starting to come back to work. And Leah, let me just say something about Leah and introduce her, and then I want her to tell you, number one, a little bit. I'm going to ask you all to go on mute.
Straightforward, and hopefully they
Kelly, could you
really
put
are.
everybody on mute? Thanks, Kelly. All right. Kelly, I think you heard me. Thank you. So a little bit about Leah. Leah goes way back as a founding kindergarten teacher at Village Prep. I think it was 2009, 11 years ago. And I just want to say that when we would visit Village Prep, the favorite class I would go in would be Leah's class. Kindergartners loved her. And I think you're going to talk about how those kindergartners are a little bit grown up now.
Just a little bit, yeah.
So I thought we'd start with Leah giving you a little bit of her career, about her career and where she started, where she is. And I think, Leah, you might have a couple of slides with pictures and stuff.
Yes.
And then you'll stop sharing the screen, and then we'll do a little Q&A between you and me, and then okay, I just unmuted myself. And now Leah's muted, so she'll have to unmute herself.
I love this.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Then we'll open up to Q&A to anybody on the phone, and we'll see how it goes on the Zoom, and we'll see how it goes. Either you can put your question in the chat and I'll read it, or take yourself off mute and butt in, and we'll see how that goes. Is that okay, Leah, to do that?
Perfect. Yes.
And I thank you so much for doing this. I know you guys are super duper busy right now, and for you to start out 45 minutes is a real honor for us. So I'm going to turn it over to you right now. I'm going to go on mute, and I'll let you kind of talk to us about you.
Okay, great. Well, welcome, you guys. I'm very excited to see many returning faces and many new faces. So as Jay-Z alluded, I am Leah Martello. I'm Citizen Academy's principal. This is my first year at Citizens Academy. However, I've was a founding member over at Village Prep Cliffs, which was the original Cliffs for all Village all of our scholars. But I do have a few things that I wanted to share with you pertaining to my journey in education. So I see some people are on, some people are off. If you have any questions, please stop me. You can put it in the chat. I believe the host made everyone mute. So if you do have a question, we can try and get you off mute. So I'm gonna go share screen, all the cool things that we can do now remotely since it was our life. Okay, so let's just see here. If you see, it's a picture of myself. It says Leah Martello, just thumbs up so I know that you guys do see it. Yeah, thanks, Jay-Z. I appreciate it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get us on screen here. All right, as I said, any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat. As soon as I'm in present mode, I don't see you. But again, my name is Leah Martello. You see a few snippets of me as an educator and teacher. It was really exciting to have the honor to open up Village Prep Cliffs almost like 12 years ago, I guess now. But a little bit about my journey from teaching to leadership is in 2009, Jay-Z, along with his friends of ePrep and the heads of schools, they decided to open up an elementary school so that we can give opportunity to that foundational year of kindergarten. A team of 6 of us optimistic and bushy-tailed teachers, as you see in the middle, we were our founding staff. We immediately hopped a plane to New York, and we found really high-performing charter schools with similar demographics that we wanted to find the best of the best, either teaching, systems, routines, policies, procedures. They also had really great standardized based aligned curriculum. So all of that, we took it back with us and opened up our very first year. We had 3 classrooms of kindergarten students, and in each of the classrooms we had 2 full-time teachers, hence the 6 teachers you see in front of you. By the middle of the year, we already knew we were going to expand a grade a year. So with the following year, we had K1. By through 2, that's when I stepped out of the classroom and became a dean of culture. Some people may traditionally know it as like an assistant principal of sorts, but I was able to then make sure holding that role for the next decade, that we were just working really strongly hand in hand with families, with our network resources, with anyone who was able to come in and through the community and our donors. It was really great to get to know each one of you. Our board members are absolutely amazing. We're really fortunate to have such a great board. But we did this and we solidified a lot of change. You see in the picture to the left, there was nothing I would not do, both in the classroom and as an administrator, to celebrate the success of our scholars. I pied in the face, I've done dances, whatever you would call it, I would do it. The kids absolutely love to thrive and achieve really high standards, but we also gave a lot of support. We were known as the school who had that high structure, but what many did not know until they came in to see is that we loved our scholars unconditionally. The support was so high. We modeled as adults what we wanted to see from students, even right down to kindergarten. From there, one of my biggest shining moments was our founding kiddos that were in kindergarten. They became 8th graders, and at that point, they're no longer in elementary school. However, the administration team reached out and they asked if I would like to read the names of those founding scholars and hand them their diplomas. I cannot tell you how amazing that was. With tears in my eyes, I'm shaking because I'm like their mom, right? So I'm so excited that I had that opportunity. And, you could see the embrace. I just couldn't even let them go. It's really hard to see them go, but now they're in like 10th or 11th grade. And many of them would come back and say, Miss Martello. And now I have to look all the way up at them instead of hugging at the hips. So I was really excited to get that opportunity. It truly felt like it came full circle. And I hope to see them when they graduate high school and even college. So one of the things now stepping into a principal role is really sharpening my vision on what leadership and what my school should look like. One thing that anyone that has met me, I'm really huge on team and family. I'm like that in my personal life and my friend life, and now also with my professional life. It's really important to know who your team is, because they are there to be with you every step of the way. And I'm very fortunate now with my team at Citizens Academy, which I absolutely love. They too they have a very strong sense of that team and family. So as we go through the bubbles, I just want to highlight some things that really keeps me focused and pushing forward. But you see the bubble was student focused. So every decision that we make in our school and even our network, it's always for the best of our students. Experiences that we provide, opportunities, academic growth, everything is surrounded about what is best for our students. High structure, high support, because this was the backbone over at the preps. That's what I knew for the past almost 12 years. That's something that we have shifted to do at Citizens Academy. They had a lot of structure. Now the support is what we're developing even further, especially in times of remote learning. There's a lot of things that you're like, how do I do this online? But that's what we have been learning all along the way. Another thing that we do is criteria for success. So be it remote, be it in person, we want to know what exactly are we looking for and how can we attain that. So we're very passionate about building out that criteria. Even for principals, we too have our own criteria for success. And then right at the bottom there, the college ready. So I really want to stress to you, we start talking about college day one, even through kindergarten, all the way up through our 8th graders. We know that if you don't go to college, it does not mean that you're not successful. We understand that we have the trades, we have entrepreneurship. There's many ways, as long as you are committed to being a lifelong learner, and whatever that capacity looks like. Also your ability level. We want to support that 100%, but we will never deny that any one of our students are not able to walk through any college. And so that's something we always put forward to them. Shared responsibility, I've mentioned that all throughout here. It's not only just the principal's role, it is right down all the way to our floor management. Like, everybody has a role in making this ship sail and thrive. So it's everyone's responsibility to see it that we're doing our best and that we know our best. Driven by data, the last bubble here, in order to have checkpoints to know that you're doing the right thing, you want to be sure that those data points are being touched each day. We have cohorts of teachers and principals that get together. We talk about data. We talk about what can we do better. And through that, like, we're able to see it that we're doing our jobs. We also ask families how we're doing. I ask my staff how I'm doing. Feedback is essential to make sure that we are doing the job right. So this is what I wanted to be able to share with you. I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see each other's faces, and also pause for any questions that you may have.
Well, Leah, why don't we jump into a little dialogue between you and me, and then we'll open it up.
Yeah.
And can ask. So thanks for that background. You're very humble. It's been I'm sure it's a hard thing to be a principal at Breakthrough. You have a lot of responsibilities. You spend countless hours, and plus, I think you have a little family at home now.
I do.
How many?
I have 2 kids. So my son is 7 and my daughter is 3, and both of which are just, I mean, they're tons of energy. They have schooling of their own. And it's interesting because I'm also a single parent. So not that I have to air that out there, but it is, there's a lot that I'm doing, both at home, and then I come here and do as a principal, and trying to make that all work cohesively for anyone who is a parent. It's a lot of work. So yeah, I'm very excited that my little ones are already so big.
Yeah, I know. So talk to us about that day, March 13th, I think it was, or March 12th, 2020, when the word came down. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like?
Wow.
What was it like when you were in school? I think you were still No, you were still probably a village rep.
Yes. Yep.
Right?
I was.
But you knew you were going to be a principal. But just fill us in on
Right.
that day, and then the rest of
Oh my
that
gosh.
year, and then I want to transition into what it was like this year with remote learning. Okay, and then there's a question in the chat already about the kids falling behind, and I know you're going to catch.
Yep, definitely get to that.
Let's go back to over a year ago.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So it almost was like time stopped, to be quite honest with you. We heard that this would be like our last day. It was very like melancholy. Like tears were shed. We knew that we weren't going to see each other and our scholars. And it was just like the unknown. Like, what are we going to get ourselves into? None of us signed up to be online teachers, but here we are. And so right away, we knew what we only knew, which was, we used Google Classroom, which worked in that capacity for that moment. We were able to upload any one of our lessons. We were able to interact through video. Many of us, like I said, we didn't know about Zoom or Google Meets. So those we were trying to learn very, very quickly. The one thing that I really appreciated at that moment was Breakthrough. And we had instantly got into cohorts across the network. So schools that never really worked with one another, like the preps and the citizens, we were able to like merge, and we looked at being not only content, so like your ELA or your math or science, but we also did grade level. So there was 2 specific like cohorts happening. So we were able to share resources, ideas, lesson plans. We still stuck with our scholars in our classroom, so that was what was consistent. But it was such a learning curve. In that time, we were learning as we were doing. So it was like, oh, that worked. Oh, that could have been better. Okay, let's not try that again. And so like from there, we just built up our online and remote distance learning capacities. Our NAT team, so NAT team meaning in like the network, the leaders in there, they were working around the clock to think about like, what is the newest thing we need to try? What other attachments online that we can use? And so that just like trickled down to like leadership. And then we had to invest and also coach our teachers to do it. So that kind of,
I want to interrupt you with one thing. Go back to a year. I think you said something very profound. Isn't it true that by last March, almost no teachers from school A had met any teachers from school B? And isn't it true that there was no principal meetings? Like principals didn't even know each other? Yeah.
So that's a really good point. So there is so we're under the same umbrella of Breakthrough, but you're just, you got your blinders on, you keep moving with your schools. There were times that you never knew any teacher at another location. We were really good at the preps to have Summer Institute that we knew some of them, but now we had to like know everybody. So there was that opportunity. And also with the principals that you just mentioned, right away, we started having meetings. So we got to meet the other models. We got to understand like what's specific to their model, like what is something that they need to stay true to, and then also like what can we learn from each other. So there was a lot of blending and merging happening, and I loved it. As a first year principal, like there's so many things that I wanted to do and spearhead and make sure that this is what we're gonna. But when you're online, it's a whole nother ball game. Right. So we meet weekly and sometimes twice a week. Then we also have an entire Friday, like for principals, that it's just a full day PD where it's, we're learning all things curriculum, all things management, all things strategic planning, because again, everything was changing. We're in a pandemic. So this was nobody's choice to be online, but we made it work. And our kids, yes, to Lauren's question, let me just look real fast. Students falling behind. So the answer is yes, right? The answer is yes, across the nation, across the world. Every student has fallen behind because they're not in person. However, there were plenty of schools that once they started to get a slight green light to do some hybrid, that was one of the trickiest models I think any school can opt to do, because you've got the in-person on one day, then the next day you're online, and maybe the third day you're not even online with a teacher, you're just trying to learn on your own. I can only comment on when my son did a hybrid. It was a disaster and it wasn't our schools, thank God. But once we made the commitment to do 100% remote, the only thing we had to make sure we were going to do well is remote learning. And so there's challenges. How do you get to know families? How do you get to know your students? We were very strategic in doing virtual home visits. So it actually forced the fact that we made more communication. Whereas, to be honest with you, there were times when teachers were in the classroom in person, and they never once saw a family member. They never once talked to the family member. But now that we have to be in their homes and logged in doing remote learning, you see them. They're like actually walking behind. You're like waving, or, hey, Ms. Smith, can you hang tight after this lunch break? I want to talk to you. Yeah, so amazing. It's like you're catching families in the moment, which has been really great. And the kids just love it. I mean, they're learning, and then you've got the times where they're doing like a quick cartwheel. You're like, hold on. But it's good. Our teachers have really been amazing at this online learning.
So let me just dig into that a little bit. I think people might be interested to know, like, can you describe a typical day from the pick a grade, I don't know, second grade, third grade, fifth grade, it doesn't matter, but
sure.
Just talk us through like a week, because I think it was pretty intense.
Oh, yes, very much. So our scholars, they log in. First of all, our teachers are already having their grade cohort meetings. We have RTI, which is response to intervention. So we're thinking about the lag of skills. How are we going to address them even on remote? So we're constantly tracking those who are falling a grade level or more behind interventions that we were going to do with them. So that's already taking place an hour to 2 hours before students actually log on for school. Students log on at 9 o'clock, and every student was given a computer, a personal Chromebook, and if they needed Wi-Fi, we gave them hotspots. So we really wanted to make sure that there were no barriers to learning. We also had, in the beginning, around the clock, our tech service and support. So like you called and you were able to get help. Okay, so going from there, 9 o'clock is logging in. We greet our students with our morning meeting. In that, we do celebrations. We talk about, the day at a glance, awards and ceremonies, and then you get into your content. So every teacher across the network had to be content specific. So one teacher would teach the entire grade level reading, so that ELA component. The other teacher would be teaching math to the entire grade level. They were split up into homerooms, so it was manageable. But then they also learned a thing called breakout rooms. So breakout rooms were pretty cool because you would have a whole group as you see now, and I would then assign a portion of us to then go into a virtual room. And so one group is on here doing their independent learning. We used programs such as iReady and Amira. The artificial intelligence, they're super great. They track students' learning. Everything they did was individualized. So as they succeeded through lessons, then the lessons progressed. If they didn't, they stayed and offered support. So again, our NAT team is amazing, and they were finding the best of the best online curriculum that was individualized, and it also was very closely tied to the curriculum that we would give on screen, or like in person on screen.
And as I recall,
After that,
you got a lot of training at the end of the summer. We had delayed opening the school for a week, so teachers and administrators could really get up to speed on this new curriculum, this new learning.
yes.
Yeah.
So our teachers at CA, there was a lot of curriculum that we were adopting that the preps had been doing. So that was a big learning curve for a lot of our staff members through the citizens model. But they were resilient. Like they learned it. And again, it was super helpful to have the cohorts across the network. So all of my first grade math teachers worked with all the first grade math teachers at the other citizens, at the preps, and they had a dean of instruction that only focused on first grade math instruction.
First grade math is first grade math, right? No matter what.
No matter what it does. Yep. So we wanted to make sure that it was normed across the entire network.
Good. Good.
And then again, those data points were really helpful because what was working with the instruction of one school, one teacher, we were able to replicate that and ensure that all of our students across Breakthroughs Network was receiving the same instruction. So yeah, we were very strategic and very planful on that.
Okay, some people are already putting questions in the chat. I'm going to summarize.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then others continue to add, and I think that's the way we'll do it. So Dick Pace wants to know, when will some breakthrough students return to class, and then something about a remote summer program. I don't know if you're up to speed on this. If you're not, I'll add on, but you could talk to us about, the return, the percentage of families that are interested in returning, that kind of thing. And then tying that is Jim Huber's question, are there circumstances that the remote learning is actually working better for a child than being in person? So maybe you could kind of wrap those into one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So just do a quick kind of rip around of that. So the first things first, with our scholars, let me make sure that I go back to the very first one because it was a good question. Our students have actually been in our schools. I don't know if you know this, but back in October, we partnered with Open Doors Academy, ODA, maybe some of you may know, and we offered in person a space was safe. We took all the precautions from the CDC. They wear masks all day, and it just provides them a space to socialize. And that's something that, like, when the governor decided that we needed to return, that was the main push, like, to have kids with their same like peers socializing. So we've actually had that since October. And many of our classrooms, that was an opt-in. So if families felt safe to do that, we made sure we took all the guidelines and precautions, and they have been in person. However, they're still learning through their computers. So if there's anything that they needed to troubleshoot, there was a staff member who was supervising them that can come over and help. So we have had that opportunity. We are now opening up our doors for Monday in-person programming. What that looks like, again, our families are opting in to do that because we do understand many families are not there yet, being comfortable with being in a pandemic and having their kids around others. And we respect that. So in that we're all doing that across the network. So on Mondays, it's an opportunity from 8 a.m. We give them breakfast, and it's just a bunch of great activities. We have socialization pieces. We have playgrounds at many of our schools, so they're able to get out with their peers and play in a playground together in a safe environment. And that actually is launching this Monday, which is so excited. That's what we've been planning for. And so, yeah, we have offered some in-person spacing across our schools.
And
now,
the summer catch-up program?
Yeah. The summer. So we are definitely looking at a summer catch-up program. That's something that, like, every school has to consider because of the lagging skills. Now, from what I heard, that there could be a possibility to keep it remote. Again, we have to just kind of get the guidance on, will this be done in person? Will this be done in remote? And we would really like to utilize our teachers.
I think the latest is that we are going to partner with Open Doors, and it will be in person for those who want it. So I think
that would
we're
be awesome.
right now in the plans for making it in person, some academic, some more social emotional related. But and then just switch into, because there's a lot of questions now building up in the chat. We want to make sure we get through all of them. Just build up to, did you notice that any of our scholars do better online? I'm sure it's not the majority, but have you noticed any that are actually doing better?
There actually has been, there's been a good handful of kiddos that they have been thriving because of online. And maybe it's because mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, like somebody's there that they work really well under. So there have been scholars who have thrived during online. Of course, you'll always have some scholars who have not done well and need that extra support. I know that we're also prioritizing doing in-person services, thinking through occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language. So those are all opportunities that we're building out to, as well as we all are equipped with counselors. So we have been very open to mental health support as well. So if, as soon as we know that somebody needs that type of support, we get them, introduced right to our counseling right away.
That was a question that just popped up in the chat. More about the response intervention. So how do you know if they need it, and if they do need it, what exactly do you do to get them help?
Absolutely. So in terms of academic response, there's two things that we're looking at. One, attendance. If you're not logging in and you're not inside classroom, we take attendance hourly. So if you're there for math and then you're just not there for ELA, and now we're noticing that your ELA grades are slipping, right away, they're already on our attendance RTI tracker. And so we're constantly calling families. We're trying to build up action plans to get them logged in. Many families just think that they're on because they're sitting in front of their computer, and they're not. So it's just that open lines of communication. In terms of academic interventions, we use a plethora. So we have our iReady, which is the individualized learning through our math and our readings, but we also do end of module assessments. Again, we're trying to track how much have they retained even though online, and we use all of that data to ensure that if you are, like, again, you're not at grade level, you're below, we're already doing reteach. One of our my site priority over at CA, every single Monday, I do small group instruction. It's all based on ability. And so our teachers, our connections, so connections like our art teacher, music teacher, PE teacher, like they are part of these small group instruction. It does not matter if you teach that content or not. We're hitting hard on our reading because we know if our students aren't reading, they will not do good in any other content. So that's a lot through the network. Like everything just becomes small group instruction that's very targeted, very skill-based. And you just create an opportunity for students to have many at-bats. At-bats meaning if we're going to practice the skill. All right, Jay-Z, now it's your turn. Penn, it's your turn. Laura, it's your turn. So you're going through to allow students that practice time with you. And again, breakout rooms are our friends. So, we do get that individualized, time to practice.
So that may get to Beverly Jones' question about what do you do to keep children engaged online? It sounds like you just mentioned some of the things you're doing, right? Calling out, but it seems to me it would be tough with 20 kids on a Zoom call in front of you, and 2 of them have their heads down, and one goes away to the bathroom or something. So what do you do? Is it the breakout sessions and the one-to-one calling out?
Yep. So there's a lot of breakout sessions. There's a lot of, we call it narrating, using positive narration. So it could be something like, all right, scholars, I need everyone to make sure that you're framed up, your head's all the way to the top of the frame. Good job. John, I need you to sit up a little bit taller, bring those shoulders up. Excellent. Good job. All right, John, I see you. Yep, you're straightening your shoulders out too. So you keep that momentum high. The energy as like a teacher, they have to tap into it because you have to exude this like high energy, and then it gets them engaged. You have to remember, many of our scholars love YouTube, right? Like they're all about the entertainment. So with our staff, I tell them, I'm like, you guys need to be larger than life. You got to step it up. You got to, the bright face, make sure that your posture is not like this, because like now I'm exuding like, it's important, but I'm just like here. But once you like get that posture going, we call it the Mona Lisa. So like if they say like Mona Lisa, like all the kids know like they need to get up and get framed up. Positive narration means you're using their names in a positive light if they're doing things right. So if I'm saying like, Katie, excellent, I love that smile. I'm making sure that like what you're doing well needs to be replicated across all these screens. If you notice that a kid is just like not having it, now they're sleeping, you can get into a breakout room because it just takes them right there and you can have that one-on-one conversation. If that kid is out like a light, because again, that happens in real life too, you guys, I'm not gonna lie. In class, kids get tired and they fall asleep. So if that's the case, and you can't get them up and they're not around you, you pick up your phone and you call home, right? So like you get the help of family members to make sure that they're engaged. In terms of online programming,
already just thinking about one. Oh my gosh.
In terms of online programming, there's a lot that keeps them engaged, and it's very interactive. So you can drop a link in the chat, the kids click on the chat, and away they go. And it's like you can use math facts as being something that's energizing and engaging. You can use sight words, and all of these things are built into programs that are flashy, that kids love, that they just get super engaged with.
Hey, Leah, I gotta ask you something. You just said, "Oh, I drop a link into the chat." Like a year ago, if your first call on Zoom with these kids, I'm gonna drop a link into the chat. Today it's like second nature, right? These kids,
second
they know
nature.
The chat, they know to go there, they click on it.
Yeah, they just know. Kindergartners, they're like, okay, I dropped a link in the chat, and they just go. They go right there. They're like to their next thing. They don't even blink, which is great. And I think that just is a true testament to how amazing and resilient our students are. I mean, we were so scared. We're like, oh my God, these little babies, like 5 years old. This is the first time they're getting into, a computer. Do they even know how to say their name, let alone type their name? But now they're typing sentences. We've gave all of our scholars supplies. So they had whiteboards, they had dry erase markers. So yes, you have the technology piece, but you also have the written piece, which is very traditional in-person schooling. So we wanted to give a super comprehensive experience.
So I sat in on a 7th grade math class, a 4th grade class, and a kindergarten class with Maria Wilson, whom you might know. But I remember in one of the 4th grade classes, they had those whiteboards, and she would say, "Okay, here's the problem." You put it up on the screen, and they had to do it and then flash up the answer like it was really in the class. Hey, give us an example, a real life example of something you heard from a parent or a kid about, you know, how it's going, or just something. Because I know our parent survey results are actually the highest they've been in 10 years, which is really kind of hard to believe.
Which
But
is amazing.
just give us one anecdotal comment that maybe a parent or a kid made about what's going on.
Thankful. I mean, if I can sum it up into one word, is thankful, because we didn't let it slide. Even though we were faced with the choice of being remote, learning distance from home, you know, it was not that type of experience. If you have an opportunity to, you know, link up with Jay-Z or even myself, and you want to get into any of these classrooms, I highly suggest that you do that, because you'll be amazed. It truly feels like a classroom. You know, as soon as you go in, the rigor of curriculum is high. You know, that at-bats practice is there. The screen is constantly changing, just like a smartboard would. So there is not much that the teachers are doing that does not feel like a traditional classroom. Our families are thankful, because they know, yes, they're there, but they're not having to teach their kids. And that was a big worry. When we first went out on March, there was a lot of like, okay, how do I help my kid do this? Now they're just sitting back, like they're just watching their kid learn, and they're learning with their peers. They're learning with their teacher. We have educational aides who come in too. So it's all hands on deck, whereas you wouldn't always have that opportunity when you're in person. So we've truly made it the best that we can. And I think that they're very thankful for that.
Well, speaking of that, you got a shout out from Karen in the chat saying, love the techniques to keep your kiddos engaged. Fantastic work. There is a good question from Lauren Miller, one of our board members, and that's about the subject of state testing.
Oh, yeah.
Is testing going on to understand the gaps in the basic requirements?
It is happening, you guys. It is happening. Okay, so that was another thing I was just working out with Chris O'Brien before I came on here, and I was like, oh shoot, I gotta log off. I'm sorry. But yeah, state testing is happening. Our families opted to do it. This year there was a COVID exemption where if a family member did not want their scholar to be in person because the test has to be done in person, they were able to be exempt. We highly recommended our families take the opportunity to have them come here, because we want to see how well they did throughout an entire year of remote learning. We're very, very curious to see. So in that, they will come to school at 8 o'clock. They get breakfast. We get them into their testing rooms. It's going to have no more than 9 students because we want to be socially distanced and safe. And so they'll be able to take the test. It is done online, and it has been done online for many years. In case I remember when I was tested, it was pencil to paper. It's not like that anymore. So it is, remote learning has actually given them a leg up, because now they know how to highlight, they know how to drag, they know how to drop, they know, they have learned this entire year. Whereas in person, you learn everything in your books, you learn things on paper. Now I'm really excited to see like how well they do. And so that's actually going to launch in the next couple weeks. So there's testing days. So they'll come in for their grade level to take a content, and then they'll come back to take the other content. So in grades 3, 4, they'll be taking 3, 4, 5 will be taking ELA and math. Grade 5 will also take science, and that's very traditional state testing.
So I imagine there's a different set of emotions with teachers about testing, right? Probably some are very scared of it, thinking that, oh my gosh, what kind of job did I do? Others are probably very like, hey, I want to know. I want to know how it's good. And I'd like to know compared to other people too. And I'd like to know who my kiddos are. So when we go 100% in person next fall, we're going to hit the ground running and get these kids caught up. Is that kind of what you're?
Oh, my staff is like, they're ready. They're like, come on, let's do this. They're very excited. I think as soon as they knew, honestly, the pitfall was just safety, right? So just making sure that like everyone getting together, are we safe? Once we knew that was not, an option of being concerned. I mean, there's always the concern. They're ready. They're like, let's get our kiddos in. Let's see how well they did. Again, if not everyone's testing how we traditionally will. So there will be kids that we just don't have those state testing data points, but it does not mean that we don't know where they're at academically.
Got it. Got it. Lauren says in the chat, every teacher, principal, and admin person I know and I've met are outstanding. They're smart, articulate, caring, motivated. Our kids are lucky to have a supportive team. That's a nice affirmation.
Look at
Yeah.
all the things you get to learn. Yeah. Thank you, Lauren. That was so nice.
Also, I think it's important to point out that according to our data, attendance is actually higher this year than last year. And
Can you believe it?
chronic absenteeism is actually down over last year, which is amazing because it's not that way in many, many schools and districts that we know of. So it is a tribute to you guys that, the families want their child to get engaged online.
Right.
The fact that we are inviting 100% of the families who want to come in for the, in-person learning centers. We're inviting 100% of the families to come in on Mondays, 100% of the families for the testing. So we got to get back so that people are comfortable coming in and are ready for next year to hit the ground running. So
yes, and the good news is, you know what, JC, I don't know if you knew this, but we had like no snow days. Can you imagine? Like any other time, in person, you'd have to take a snow day. There's no snow days when you're at home logging in on a computer. So that's a huge win. Like, McBride's always telling us no snow days. Well, he got his wish, so we're good.
Hey, check out that latest comment in the chat. I don't know what it is, but you might get it. Have you tried?
Yes. Oh my gosh. God, I will definitely do that. We have not, but I will throw that song down. Don't you worry about that. That's hilarious. So good.
Okay, we got 4 minutes to go. Does anybody want to either throw another question in the chat or come off mute and ask Leah or say anything to Leah in person? I want to respect your time. So if you do, just go off, or sleeping adult. So just go off mute if you want to say anything to Leah. Last 4 minutes.
I'll start playing that song.
This is your last big chance now. You're all on mute, so you got to go off if you want to talk. All right.
Thanks, James.
Oh, there it is.
Oh my gosh.
There's the song. All right, I'll tell you what. Let me just use this time to let you, Leah, do a 2-minute summary of anything you want to say that you don't think you had a chance to say that people didn't ask you. Grace just said you're the best. Thanks to all you and I.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys, thank you so much. I could not do this without you guys. To be honest, you have helped us for so many years of just like your loyalty, your support, your financial donations, just getting the word out of our school. That alone has been so helpful to get us on the map, to be part of like the highest competitive schools, be it a charter school, a public school. I mean, we are doing the thing. And again, all thanks to you. I could not be more thankful and more grateful for all your donations. And I know, JC, like you and your team work relentlessly and tirelessly. Like, so I thank you for all these opportunities. And I know like each week, you're constantly getting it out there for our families, our donors, prospective donors of just like, hey, this is what we're doing. So thank you for just always working so hard for our schools. We're so thankful for you always. And again, just like, I know, right? It's hard. It's thinking like, why are you still remote? But we are truly being so extremely mindful of the health and safety, the welfare of our students. It forces us to be even more communicative to like all stakeholders. So I'm just thankful that I get this opportunity to just lead Citizens Academy and just take another year with Breakthrough. I'm just very thankful. So I am thankful for you guys coming on and signing on your busy days. So I appreciate your time.
Well, the next one of these is on the 28th. It's Wednesday the 28th. And Leah, we got 2 alums going to be on. And
fun.
You're welcome to join. Who knows? Maybe you had one of them in your kindergarten class. You never know.
I'm sure. Oh, I'll have to come back. My babies.
So, okay, so Leah, if you could stay on, because I want you to have a chance to read all the nice comments that are in the chat.
Aw, yeah.
And everybody else, thanks for joining us. I hope to see you on the 28th. And then I think we have a wrap up on May 19th with Andrew McCrae and Arliss Press. So if you enjoyed today, tell all your friends. And let's hop on one more of these. And I think it's 1:14. We finished 1 minute early. Note that, Mr. Crystal, in your Mr. Timekeeper there and other board members who are concerned about
That's
these
awesome.
kinds of things. So everybody else can leave. Leah, hang around for a minute. And thanks, everybody.
Bye. Have
Bye-bye.
a great Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.